The one universal characteristic of every single homeless person I've ever met, worked with, and when I was one myself as a child, is that they are poor.
Lack of a living wage, broken criminal justice, foster care, domestic violence. While we have that, we're going to have homelessness.
Yes, 100%. People are one step away from the backslide into homelessness. It starts with, my landlord raised my rent. Starts with losing your job. It is time for some kind of reality check around how we talk about these things and how we approach these things. Well, first of all, I don't understand operating an organization trying to be all things to all people. I could fucking care less how big we are. What I care about is how good of a job we do. We do food and we do housing. We do both spectacularly well. No, this country's really, really hard for poor people of all types.
Oh, so you want to talk about capitalism?
Fuck yeah, I want to talk about capitalism. I want to talk about the unfettered commodification of housing, healthcare, education, and food. The fact that those are unattainable for people is unacceptable.
We're going to get in a little trouble. Hope you don't mind. Today's guest is David Gillanders. He is the executive director to Pathways of Hope. And David is a character, and I'm a knucklehead. So when you put us both together, wow. Today we're going to talk about, you already saw the title, we're going to talk about how we need to be honest and speak up about what's wrong in the homeless sector. For example, Housing First works. We know Housing First works, but it's not implemented correctly, and we are not allowed to talk about that. There's all kinds of political and social pressure to not say anything. The result, the opposition to housing that pushes for criminalization uses that failure against us. That's just one of many reasons why you need to listen to this podcast and share it with everyone you know. I've been a little nervous about this one.
Yeah, why is that?
Because you're very ornery and candid. Both, I feel, positive traits, but I don't know where this podcast is going to go.
Yeah,
and like I said to Chris Freed, how much trouble do you want to get into?
All the trouble.
All the trouble.
Yeah, what do I care? Go for it.
You know, you run a large homeless services. You're the top. You're very candid.
Yeah.
And you maintain your job. So your board and donors allow you to be you.
Yeah.
And speak truth to power, where that doesn't happen a lot or enough.
But is that not happening by choice because the people in comparable positions to me choose not to be like that? Is it because they're scared to? Is it because they don't want to? Or they don't actually fully believe in the things like that I'll say?
This morning I was talking to a funder, and they were telling me that other funders are now reaching out to their grantees and saying, you know, you cannot have an open gender bathroom. You know, you have to have male and female because of what's going on. And, you know, that's just one of the things. People are even more scared now.
And I get the fear people have 100% because, like, I mean, I've got a responsibility to my organization. I've got, you know, lots of people that work for me. We have a budget. Most importantly, we have people that depend on us for the work, right? So I get all that. I've always operated with the philosophy, success begets resources, right? So our cultural identity as an organization is 100% around customer service. And I don't think that's something that people talk enough about in our work. I don't think people ever use those two words as a descriptor for their ethos, for how they approach this.
That's why we're doing a podcast.
Yeah. 100%. You know, I just got off the phone with the funder today too, who made us a very substantial investment over the next 2 years to do work to keep people in their housing and to keep them from becoming homeless. And we're talking 7 figures, right? And the reason for that is because our success, and I hate that word in the context of our work because there's never success, but our ability to approach the work from a customer service standpoint. And what I mean by that is if you are the next person in line at our walk-in center on a given morning, and we don't keep lines, we do an appointment system and things like that. But let's say you're out there and you're waiting for us to open. You're just waiting for one glimmer of a person with keys to open the door. If we stop and talk to you, you are now the most important person of the entire staff's focus for that day, right? Or for at least until that problem is solved. And where a lot of our peers are just hyper-focused on the idea of expansion, I'm hyper-focused on the idea of quality. So getting back to like your original point, I could fucking care less how big we are. What I care about is how good of a job we do. And I think that's what attracts people to invest in us. I think people want to bet on a winner. And I think focusing on being a winner and being really good at the work is the most important thing you can do. That's where you need to put your energy, in my opinion.
Great mindset.
I don't know if it's a great mindset, but it's worked for us so far.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I think we probably have to inform people who you are and what is it you do.
My name is David Gillanders, and I am the executive director of Pathways of Hope. I've been around for about 50 years. We only serve the northern 13 cities in Orange County, California. You preface this by saying we're a big organization. We're not that big. We're about $6 million a year, 30 people roughly, a few more than that work for us. That size is also a little bit going back to what I was saying by choice. We don't just take every project that walks through the door. We take in stuff we know we can do really well. So our growth has been slowed, it's been controlled, but our outcomes are untouchable. We are the best.
Well, you're honest. You sent me a thing yesterday that you had a 63%.
68, Mark.
68. Sorry, cut you down a little bit.
It's all right.
Well, and it's interesting. In the world of homeless services, the number that's floated the most is usually above 80 and 92, and they all do it. It's so not true.
No, it's bullshit.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Yeah, a lot of the time.
You know, so you're being honest about your outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a family shelter that I sent you that from our 2024 annual report. You know, 68% of people moving on to a productive housing exit to permanent housing is good. I mean, that's actually really good. That's 2 and 3, right? And so when you think of it from the perspective of the challenges that we face, and boy, we can talk about the real environmental challenges and the real reason we have homelessness and everything else on this.
Oh, so you want to talk about capitalism?
Fuck yeah, I want to talk about capitalism. Yeah, I do. I want to talk about the unfettered commodification of housing, healthcare, education, and food. The 4 things every person needs.
Let me finish your thought, and then we'll go into...
Yeah, I've been doing this work for about, I don't know, like 17 years or something. One of the things you start to see over time is the approach that especially mega operations are taking on, really big groups, where there's a constant need to feed the beast, to kind of cover your bets, so to speak, because you're waiting for reimbursement payments and things like that, and you have to pay staff in the interim, and you got to have cash flow appropriate.
Well, there's also a huge political push just to get the numbers.
100%. And so based on those two sort of combined factors, those pressures, you'll say what it takes to try to draw people in, to make them really excited about your work and see big numbers. And, you know, that works for sure for some people. But a lot of the times you dig deeper into that, and it just ain't there, man. And like, look, I've just been around COC practices for so long and involved in so many levels of this stuff that I've just seen it's not out of the realm of possibility and likelihood that some organizations are basically saying, you know, telling their service navigators and case managers, like, make sure the numbers are good, instead of what we do, which is every day our program management team sits down and goes, make sure these people are served. Make sure this person gets what they need. And also, if it's not something we can do, make sure the person understands that. Don't bullshit people. Don't fucking bullshit people. Don't tell people you got a service you can't provide. If you're not able to do something for them, you don't have the funding for it, it's not in your program capacity, whatever it is, don't tell them otherwise.
Oh, amen, amen, amen.
I mean, like, to me, that's just common decency, right? Well, first of all, I don't understand an operating organization trying to be all things to all people. Like, fuck that. We do food and we do housing. We do both spectacularly well, but we don't try to pretend we're something we're not. I don't have a single shelter, and we are not funded to do individual coordinated entry at our walk-in center, so we don't do it. You know what I mean? It sucks. I wish we could do it. I wish we'd get funded for it. We don't do it. So when someone comes to us, cool, let me help you find the right place that can help you. But we're not going to try to like spend a ton of time and resources giving someone false hope.
You're targeted.
We do too much of that.
People first.
100% people first. That's what this is about. This is not the David show. This is not even the Pathways of Hope show. This is that guy walking through the door that needs help show. That's what this is about.
As homelessness grows, people are getting frustrated, and they're pushing for laws that criminalize homelessness, which will only make the problem worse. Invisible People reaches more people, educating them on homelessness than all other homeless sector nonprofits and campaigns combined. But we do it on a limited budget. We don't have the funding they do. We are mostly funded by individual donations. And now that the economy is struggling, individual donations are disappearing, and we need you. I get it. You might not have the money to donate. Many people are struggling right now. Please share our content, share our videos. It really matters. And if you do have some funds and want to help be part of the solution to solve homelessness, please visit invisiblepeople.tv/donate. Our important work stops without you.
And I mean, I think like I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm probably not the dumbest either, right? And I think I know what works for us. And I also think at the same time, other people that run other organizations have different conditions and things they're experiencing. But like, there's some things that are just like not being customer service focused, right? And I think people have tried to paper over that crack in all kinds of really creative ways. I think lived experience, the tokenism that's involved with lived experience is psychotic.
You're going all over.
We let ourselves get distracted by all of these other things that are suddenly like the flavor of the month thing, like housing first, right? All of these things that people want to pursue and embrace and talk about, and it's going to be the solution, and we just need this one thing to get us over the hump. But people will not talk about the actual reason we are all in this situation to begin with, which is of course socio and political, and most importantly, economic.
Let's get that out of your system.
Yeah, go for it.
No, you go for it. You're the one who wants to talk about capitalism.
Well, I just think, look, like I think there's other countries that have figured out how to do what we have not in this country, and that is to have a safety net that's appropriate for people's material needs. When I think about the causes of homelessness, right, it's always been economic. You can dress that up however you want. You can start to talk about particular pieces of that are interesting. So 10 years ago, I want to be very clear. I'm not a savant or some shit. The amount of discourse around affordable housing was pretty small. People were still feeling like if we just spent our COC money correctly, we could solve homelessness. And so let's go pay consultants $300 an hour to teach us how to do it. Right. It's a bunch of bullshit. No, the truth is we have established that it is acceptable and decent for working class people to be soaked of every dollar and cent and have all of that money trickle to the top. Fucking hell, guys. There is a resulting thing from that, and that is economic collapse for very poor people. And that is the leading indicator of homelessness. The one universal characteristic of every single homeless person I've ever met, worked with, and when I was one myself as a child, okay, is that they are poor. Right? They are poor. Our movement, right? Our work in this space is more aligned with fucking workers' rights and labor and making sure people have decent working conditions and can make money to pay bills. All of those things, that is more relevant than almost anything else we talk about. And what we do is we just nitpick these little things. We need more affordable housing. No, motherfuckers. We need housing everybody can afford because we have a system of economic justice in this country that actually ensures if you are working 40 hours a week, you are not going to go homeless because you're not going to lose your housing. And like until we get to that place, like all this shit is noise, man. It's just noise.
But David, we're going to end homelessness.
We're not.
Then we're going to do it.
No, that's the bullshit.
We're going to cheerlead. We're going to do it.
I came into my job. Again, I'm not the smartest guy, but the one thing I said on day one is we are done talking about ending homelessness at this agency. And everyone's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, your job is not to end homelessness in North Orange County. It's never been your job. I'm sorry someone told you this before. Regretfully, I'm going to have to tell you now that as of today, your job is to end homelessness for the next person that needs you and walks through the door. That's your job. Resources dependent, right? Your job is not to end the issue of homelessness. Nobody can do that. Nobody at this conference can do that. That is a choice of someone, take your pick, Sacramento or Washington. And both parties, political parties, have opted not to do that. They just have. They've just abandoned the ability or the thought to like, maybe if we put corporatism and oligarchyism in check, both political parties are guilty of this. Maybe if we put them in check, we can actually have a economic system in this country that improves the relationship, the material relationship between this country and poor people. And they opt not to. Right. And don't tell me, oh, one side does it and the other side does it. No, neither of them do. Because if they did, we would have different people running for president that would have actual ideas and not be afraid to speak truth to power and say things like, no, this country's really, really hard for poor people of all types, and we need to do something to fix that problem. Until that's addressed, I'm not going to be out of work.
Homelessness is a symptom, and we continue to 100%. try to treat the symptom
instead of the disease.
And and I get it. People want to be positive.
Yeah.
A lot of it is also driven by fundraising. You have to say you're ending homelessness,
right,
or people won't give us money.
Right.
One of my big pet peeves with the cheerleading is that people were not able to see the affordable housing crisis coming, right? We're here at NEH, and Nan, who I like Nan, would stand up and say, we're ending homelessness.
We're not.
And then homelessness got worse. Yep. And then she's, well, we could be better.
Right.
And now I feel bad for Ann because she has to take the stage first couple months into the Trump era, there's no way you can pep talk cheerlead like we used to.
Yeah.
And the point that I'm trying to make is maybe, I hope, when we get through this, there'll be a bit of reality that sets into people.
Yeah.
You can still be positive. You can still focus on helping to prevent and solve homelessness. But this idea of, we're ending homelessness, we're ending homelessness, we're ending homelessness. For God's sakes, people.
I know.
Wake up. I mean, you have automation coming.
Yep.
Right? That's going to kill jobs. Nobody could have seen COVID coming or Trump and Elon cutting tens of thousands of jobs.
100%.
Which is going to influence homelessness.
Yep.
Not talking about all the other shit. We have to realize that as long as we have an affordable housing crisis, racism, lack of a living wage, broken criminal justice, foster care, domestic violence. While we have that, we're going to have homelessness.
Yes, exactly. No, 100%. I think you mentioned the current administration in there, for instance, right? And like I have no love for what's going on right now. And, talking to friends of mine that work at HUD, it's dystopian almost. It's like it's really a crisis there right now. Somebody described it to me that every day is a cry fest right now because no one knows what's going to happen next, right? I 100% get all that. And 100% of this was preventable. This was all preventable. So you have to go back 45. And by the way, love Nan, love Ann, do not envy their job. And I feel like it is time for some kind of reality check around how we talk about these things and how we approach these things. I don't want to digress too far, but it struck me the other day. I was listening to a Chris Hedges interview, and he talked about the last political election was essentially a choice between corporatists and oligarchs. And I was like, that's a really interesting description to describe basically what ostensibly is team red versus team blue politics. I don't like you because you're team red. I don't like you because you're team blue. That's my team, and that's who I'm all for. Well, you know what? If you're for Team Blue, then I hope that one more celebrity from something holds an event, and that's what gets you over the finish line. Instead of actually like maybe connecting with people and trying to figure out why it is they would vote in a different direction that could adversely affect their material situation. And the reason is because I know you're a fan of Binghamton, New York, and so I did a little road trip through Appalachia from Virginia up through to there, and I spent some time in Eastern Pennsylvania. I like to take film photography, and I went to a place called Shamokin, Pennsylvania. And I'd heard about this place. It was actually turned into a meme because a Dunkin' Donuts there caught on fire, and the video of the residents talking about it was amazing. But what I actually saw in the video was a lot of people mocking these people. Maybe they didn't have like an education level that they thought they just kind of talked funny or whatever the hell it is, right? One of the things that really struck me was the amount of fucking coastal elitism that is endemic in this shit, in our work too, is insane, right? So I go to this place and I meet these people and I'm talking to just like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, there's Narcan distribution points on every corner. All of these buildings are abandoned. People are living in red tagged fucking buildings. Like the fracking and the coal mining industry have abandoned this place. Every politician has screwed these people. They've left them with nothing except an unhealthy, poor environment. They can't raise their kids in a way they want to. They're not feeling good. Shit's not great. And you ask me why they would vote for the other guy who's not a traditional politician? We fucked this up. Go back 45 years when we started like celebritizing politicians in this way of being a representative of like these two opposing diametrics. They're on the same team, guys, and it ain't your team. It ain't the team of people in Shamokin, Pennsylvania. I tell you that much. So until we kind of figure out, we have to chart a new course for ourselves politically. I mean, if you like, there's a working class families party right now. Like I'm like, if I can register for them, like that's who I'm going to vote for. You know what I mean? Because you look at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Beyond love and acceptance, and no one likes me, so I don't give a shit about that stuff. But like, what is it? It's housing, it's food, it's education, it's healthcare, it's taking care of your kids. Like that's the realistic hierarchy of needs where people sit. You want to talk about why we have homelessness? It's because that section of what's important to people, no politician takes care of it. No one's addressing those things. I look at that and I go, well, if you don't take care of that, people are one step away from the backslide into homelessness. And that's where it starts. The economic backslide starts with losing your job. It starts with my landlord raised my rent. It starts with those things. And like, until we get like some kind of mechanism in this country or some kind of perspective or some kind of like, again, charting a different path for ourselves in terms of what we want to represent our needs. Because I'll tell you what, I practice jiu-jitsu, and the guys at my gym, there are a lot of dudes who I do not identify with politically, right? I was joking with one of them the other day going, I'm Karl Marx with tattoos, man. I don't know what to tell you. But he's the nicest dude in the world. And he actually considers himself apolitical. He voted for Trump because he looked around at everything else and went, well, at least this is change. Like, at least this will disrupt things because nothing is working for people. And the problem is that a lot of our peers wouldn't even sit in the same room with someone that voted for the other party and listen to why they did it. And again, I'm not a fucking expert. I'm not like some fucking wonderkind out doing this. Like, oh, check out what I learned. Like, I'm special. This is just shit from talking to people when you're all sweaty after like rolling around with other dudes in pajamas for 2 hours. You know what I mean?
There's Abby Phillips on CNN. It's basically a talk show.
Yeah.
And it's half red and half blue. And I'm addicted to it.
Are you?
I watch it if I'm home, all the time, because we've gotten away from having those conversations. Yeah. Somebody said the other day that we're already in a civil war. We just haven't pulled the guns out yet.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
You know, because we're so polarized and we don't listen to the other side. Yeah. And I think it's important. How are we going to ever extend the olive branch or heal that bridge when we're, draw the line in the sand and you're evil and you're a fascist and
100%. I was walking. I'm not going to say who it is, but I was talking to someone, and they did the same thing. They just started basically demonizing people who voted for the thing they didn't want. And I'm just sitting there going, maybe that's the problem. Maybe your demonization of every single person you meet and having this attitude, this condescending attitude of like they don't know what's best and all of this is actually part of the problem. Maybe you should actually ask them what they do want in a politician. This is the great big myth that we have. We think right now because you're poor that means all of your cultural identity, political markers should be in line with mine. They're not, man. They're not at all. But the thing that unites you is that you're living and operating under a system where you cannot pay your bills, right? And that's the biggest threat you face all the time. I think we're closer to something different. I think we're closer to something where people are actually going to start to figure that part out. Like, I'm optimistic. I sound like a dick and I sound like all this stuff, but like, I'm actually kind of sanguine about a lot of this. Like, I feel like people are starting to figure it out and are going to wake up. And I think what's going to go on in the next couple of years is probably going to do that. The problem I have is we've had 45 years since Reagan was first inaugurated, where the working class in this country really first started to feel the impact of basically, laissez-faire capitalism and the decimation of labor unions, right? And those are the things that really kicked off a change in this country, a sea change in how we related to poor people and what we provided in terms of services and everything else. But the thing is that that's not limited to the Republicans. I mean, Clinton had welfare queens. Obama signed off on, what was it, $8.6 million in reduction in Medicaid or something like that, or $1 billion in reduction in Medicaid. Nobody has been there to actually fight for working people except one guy, and you know who I'm going to say it is, but it's Bernie Sanders. It's Bernie Sanders. And it's like, I'm a guy who has gotten money from billionaires to do our work. So I want to be really clear. My problem right now as it stands is how we've commodified housing, healthcare, education, and food. The fact that those are unattainable for people is unacceptable. Other things I'm not concerned about. I buy shit from Amazon. I'm a huge fan of professional sports. Well, one in particular, soccer. You know that. Liverpool's playing today. I almost wore a jersey up here, but black's a more slimming color. So, I'm a fan and I participate. I'm a homeowner. Like, that shit's that's not lost on me that I'm essentially a class trader, right? But the fact that those four things are what we've commodified to the level of we need to extract every dime we can from working people. That's why you and I are having this conversation today. And that's why all the shit about we can solve, if we just had really great coordination between our COC and funders and affordable housing development. No, man, no, because that'll find a way to get exploited too.
Right. Well, what's happened, Ronald Reagan, 80s, the cut HUD funding, and it was for shelters, now housing. I call it the numbers game. And it's just grown and grown and grown to, housing first, housing first, housing first.
Jesus, don't even get me started on housing first, man.
Well, okay. we're going to pause for a second. We're going to go to housing first. We don't have a lot of time left.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have to do a part 2 with you.
Yeah, whatever.
You have some strong opinions on lived experience.
I think I've seen it be defaulted to as a catch-all for the decision-making process that we should be undergoing to perform services. And I just think that's wrong. I don't agree. So one thing I want to say at the outset, right? Really important. A lot of our staff, and I don't just mean our staff, I mean staff in this work in general, line staff, probably the lower paid group of all, maybe they're younger. A lot of them have lived experience in and of themselves, and they ain't telling you about it.
Right.
A lot of them are poor, came from families that are moving around. A lot of them lived in their cars in college.
Or they're worried about being judged.
Hell yeah, 100%, right?
Because once you say you're formerly homeless, people think about you differently.
Right, exactly. And plus, how are we defining lived experience anyways? Like, I always thought it was people who had suffered some kind of trauma or some kind of issue as a result of basically the economic system that put their housing or something at risk or were homeless. But like, you have this idea that like you need to have a committee of people who were chronically homeless for X amount of time. And that is how you will process your decision making, you know, what your board should do and where your agency should go.
People might not have any real experience in policy,
right?
In
money management.
We can go on and on and on.
I mean, I'm sorry, but like, I want our agency to be really good at what it does.
Right.
That doesn't mean I look at one source of information and strategy and go, that's what we're doing. I take a bevy of things, right? I got a guy who manages for Merrill Lynch on my board of directors, right? Obviously, I'm going to look to him for investment advice on reserves.
Right.
We have an amazing lived experience board member, Tim, and he will tell you, yeah, I don't have all the answers, man. I'm just here to give my perspective. And that's factored into things.
Right. So where I have seen it implemented that's positive is customer service.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
God, yeah.
Hey, could you,
big time,
you know, walk through our shelter or walk through our interim housing?
Yep.
Or when we're placing people into permanent supportive housing, what other support do we need so that they can thrive, not survive?
Yeah.
How does the outreach team interact?
Yeah, 100%.
Where do they go? That's invaluable. Mm-hmm. It's gotten crazy.
It has, yeah. No, it totally has. And I think I would not be as good at my job, if I'm good at it at all, if I didn't have someone like Tim to help me. So I have lived experience myself, right? I slept on couches as a kid with my parents when they got divorced. We probably didn't go more than a month in a row without a 3-day notice on our door. So like, you know, pick your poison, right? Whatever. I don't like wear that as my badge of honor and like tell everyone about it. In fact, I can't believe I just fucking said it on a podcast because I just don't, it's not that important to me. Tim's is relevant to me. Tim's is important. He's on our board to serve exactly the purpose you're talking about. He advises. And the other thing he does that's really important, and this is the job of an executive director in my mind, is to manage your board. So my board is set up that when we have new program initiatives, we ask Tim his perspective and we give Tim the floor to tell the rest of the board about how his lived experience and this idea sort of cross-pollinate and what it can mean. So like when we got really heavy into prevention, and I'm talking we do millions of dollars in prevention at this point, right? That work is amazing. We are so good at it. But it was Tim, who is chronically homeless, telling our board, yeah, we should definitely invest first in prevention because we need to keep people from becoming homeless to begin with. And it was the board going, oh, so we don't need to do a single shelter. And it's just like, well, that would be good. But like, actually, let's just make sure people don't become homeless. That was the lived experience guy's perspective.
We got to go back a little bit. We're going to rewind to the beginning because I started off, and this wasn't planned. We just got there. I started off about how you're able to speak freely.
Yeah.
There's a post, I think 82% of failure can be attributed to organizational silence.
Wow.
Where employees know something is going to fail, but they're just scared to speak up. So if you're going to have this lived experience, you have to allow them to speak truth to power.
Yeah.
There's nothing that a homeless person can say today that we haven't been saying for decades. Shelters suck.
Housing ends homelessness, Mark? Like that one? Like, is that the one? But I got this long like paragraph from this person. Yes, COC should be promoted. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Like, you think I don't know that? Like, honestly, like, yes, I'm actually coming to this and presenting on it so I can decide for myself if COC should be providing housing. What, are we really doing this?
Yeah. Well, since you brought up housing,
the thing we fucked up so bad on this, and this is just my opinion, right, is we started talking about housing first as a program and not a philosophy. I don't think when Sam and all these people started talking about this, I don't think they ever meant it to be a program. What they meant it to be was like, like housing should be the priority. Housing needs to be the absolute thing that you start with in terms of not maybe where someone goes first, right? You have to create a situation for every person that's unique to them that says housing's the goal. We are getting you into housing. We are doing what it takes to get you into housing. Housing is the first priority. Not housing is the first thing you do every single time automatically like a fucking robot, default mode. Put them in housing.
But that gets the numbers clicked.
Fuck the numbers, man. That's what I'm saying.
It's all about the numbers.
No, it's about the people.
It's about the numbers.
It's solidarity with these people, man, and helping them solve this fucking issue, right? That's what it is. It is not the numbers. I could give a shit if my housing first numbers look fucked up if I'm doing the right thing.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I have a little different take.
Please.
I think the philosophy, it hurt because, and Ian said this in one of our podcasts, he said housing first is support that comes with housing. He might have said it a little different than that. What has happened, we became housing only.
Yeah.
Because it was not really defined. And you see these arguments on LinkedIn all the time where people go, well, no, this is what it's supposed to be. And they are quoting the philosophy. They might even tag Sam in it because they want to get the numbers up or they don't understand the support.
Yeah. The best like matriculation for someone who's been on the streets for a long time, I always see it as probably start with shelter because it's gateway to other services, hopefully other interventions. If they're qualified for PSH, getting into PSH, and then transitioning them to a conventional Section 8 voucher because, you know, like we spent a lot of time talking about today, the economics of this world tell you that a person that's formerly homeless to try to pay market rent within 3 or 4 years by themselves, that's why rapid rehousing is a joke in my mind. We got out of that business. We're never doing that. That's one of the first things like I focused on was never doing that shit again.
Well, rapid rehousing is a tool that if used right, I mean, it's a certain demographic. Oh my gosh, if you're listening to this podcast, you got to go to the YouTube version right now because Dave's face is priceless. In fact, I got to do the thumbnail with your face like that.
I'm not a fan of rapid rehousing.
I've seen it used wrong, but I know people that just need some help restabilizing, that rapid rehousing can be
But
effective.
the qualification for rapid rehousing is you have to be homeless, right? So what you're talking about is housing stabilization dollars, flexible dollars for that.
Right.
I market in that shit all the time. I mean, I've got billionaire donors who have been really generous because that work matters. And those guys actually said, hey, they're really good at this. Let's do that shit. When we were still doing rapid rehousing, I signed a $10,000 check to get a family of 7 into a house in Long Beach. That then the market rent was going to be $4,500 a month. Because their family size and everything else, that's the place that worked out or something. And they had a plan to pay for it, right? Do you know how set up for failure that is? And I know coming out of 2008, 2009, we heard all about this shit. Oh no, most people figure it out. I don't want to take the chance of people figuring it out.
What I've seen,
I don't want to risk people's lives and their homelessness around figure it out.
Yeah, what I've seen happen is a case manager has a chronic homeless person that they know is never going to restabilize, but all they have available is rapid rehousing. So they'll place them in, even knowing that after the year, they'll be put back outside, but now they don't have the homeless status.
Yeah.
And that's horrible.
That sabotaging of people is so unfair to them. Yeah. I don't ever want to do that. And so we actually transitioned. We had a rapid rehousing program for families that was 28 households. The service dollars per household were like $13,000. We're in Southern California. How the hell is that going to work? It doesn't, right? We managed to like kind of keep it going, kind of make it work. We were underperforming the people served because we're like, no, we're putting more money towards these people to try to stably house them. Finally, I just went to our COC and I just said, look, this has to become a family PSH program. You have more families than ever that have disabilities, with adults with disabilities that are chronically homeless. Yes. And you've got to house these people permanently. Take 28, go down to 7 and make these permanent supportive housing, because all you're doing is it's turnover in the housing market or in the homeless system. It's like, well, they're housed for 6 months and then they become homeless again and we start the process all over. What the fuck is that?
Dancing madly backwards.
Oh, Christ, man. It's the worst.
Yeah. I try to end these things on a positive.
Yeah, there's a lot of positive.
What do you see that's working? What advice and value can you give to the listener or watcher? What they can do to, let's say, start transitioning from a numbers focus to a customer service focus? Because it's not that easy, especially when you have politicians that can influence your funding, saying, oh, no, we got to get the numbers up.
Well, in order for me to be positive, I got to use a negative word, and that's no. You've got to start saying no to things. I think this might be starting to happen, okay? People have to be comfortable telling people at City Hall, at their county offices, at their COC, whatever governing body is dispersing funds, to new projects. No, that won't work, actually. And I don't really want that money because this project is doomed to fail given the current economic conditions of the world.
It's hard to turn down money.
It's not. It's not hard at all.
Whoa. Stop 1 second. Because
it's not hard at all.
About 3 years ago, I was in a situation where there was a funder dangling money. I kind of was like, God, I wish I could say no.
Yeah.
But we were...
No, I get that. I get that. And I especially get it when you have people who work for you that, the funding not coming in means something material for them.
Right. We talk about this. A lot of it is top down.
Yeah.
Philanthropy dictates homeless services.
Yeah.
If philanthropy changes, right?
Well, that's why what I'm describing earlier is when I talk about very rich people who have given us money, it's not because they're coming to us saying, you need to do X, Y, and Z thing. It's actually the opposite. They're coming to us saying, you're really good at your jobs. We want to invest in this.
How do you get to that point?
I mean, it's a cultural identity of your organization, and saying no is a big part of that. So let me tell you a quick story about saying no. I'm at the conference in DC back in 2019 or 2020. A new shelter was getting formed in a town adjacent to us, and it's in our service area. Our organization has never run a single shelter to that magnitude. It was like going to be 110 beds or something, so pretty decent size, right? I was really interested in it, and because it's work I believe in. I think shelter work's really important. I think a lot of people do it really poorly, and I said if I can apply our ethos and our principles, we have a core set of standards. It's 10 standards. It functions as our Bill of Rights. It's posted in every place we work in publicly, so people that we serve can see how we think of them and like what they mean to us, right? That's really important. That's our identity. If I can apply that to a single shelter, I want to. The problem was the city that was coming in with the contract for it was too low. And it was bid too low. So what ended up happening is, I'm not going to name who, but in one of the big juggernaut organizations came in. So I said no to it in prior because I'm like, this is not going to go well. So I'm in the back of a cab outside Amsterdam Falafel talking to my board chair going, fuck it, I don't think we're doing this. And he's like, yeah, I'm with you. If you don't think we should do it, we shouldn't do it. I go, okay, cool. Hang up the phone, go inside, come home from DC a week later. The organization that got it undercut everyone, took the contract. The second they got the contract, they went to the first city council meeting they could to renegotiate it for more money. They got more money, and they have since lost the bid to operate that shelter because of performance issues. So say the fuck no if you can't do something right, is my point. I don't care who you are. I'll tell it to anyone.
Well, you brought
can't
up a
do it
Bill
right,
of Rights.
don't do it.
Right?
Yeah.
You brought up a Bill of Rights.
Yeah, well, that's what we have. It's called our standards. Yeah, it's called our standards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you share them?
Yeah, I mean, the first one, it's all client-centric, and it's all about how we work together. So, like, the person that we serve comes first every day. That's the first person in every decision maker. It's not a funder. It's no other stakeholder. It's the person we serve. And then it goes on to kind of illuminate that a little bit more, but a lot of it is about how we work together. Because I think when you talk about cultural identity of your organization, if I can't sit here and have an honest conversation with someone I work with about things that progress and push forward the mission of Pathways of Hope and advance what we're doing, then what am I doing at work? So that thing you said earlier about how of the times projects fail, 82%, there's someone that knew and didn't say anything.
Right. Organizational silence.
It never happens with us because in that set of standards, it talks about cross communication with our team, how we work together, how it is not the David show or the Pathways of Hope show. It is the person in lines show that needs our help.
Yeah.
And when you reach that, you end up having the confidence to go, I don't need to take your shit project that's underfunded and is not going to serve people correctly. And yeah, it might suck that it goes to someone that sucks, right? Lessons are hard sometimes.
Anything you'd like to add?
I don't want people to be homeless, man. I don't want people to get eviction notices on their door because I had that experience as a 14-year-old. I slept on couches of family and friends for years while my parents figured out their lives after they got divorced because they had me too young. And they are the example of a working class family with no education. I don't want that for other people.
Yeah.